So before I get into how this all works and what it can do for you, I wanted to show you just how great this is. This is a site that I just put on there. This is kind of backwards. You're going to see me actually put this site on the server, but I wanted to show it to you first, and I wanted to show you how nice this server is to work with. This is a CyberPanel server, and it's got Lightspeed caching built in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the back end of it really quick. So in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in my name and password to get in. I can save that password, which I'll do. So now I'm in CyberPanel. So you can see we're in here. This is the $10 per month version of the server. And so it's pretty empty. The 12% of disk usage is just the operating system and the CyberPanel itself. But I want to show you how easy this is to work with and how nice it is. So to add a website, all I have to do is go to websites, create a new website, and I'm going to select a package, which is just the default. I'm going to select the owner. Then I'm going to put the domain name in that I'm building for. And then I'm going to put in an email address. I'm going to select my PHP version, and I'm going to tell it that I want it to be an SSL secured site. And I hit create website. So just like that, I've created my first my actually second website on this. You can see it's adding everything right now. It's going through and setting up the SSL certificates and all that. Once it's completed this, then all I'm going to do is tell it that I want to have a WordPress site put on it. So, okay, it's finished doing the installation. So I'm going to go list websites. Now I can see I've got my on-demand, which was the first one I did, and then I've got this VYCBO. So I'm going to hit manage on it. And then down here at the bottom of the page, I've got all these choices. I can do file management and all this stuff. But I'm going to go down here to application installer, and I'm going to tell it to install WordPress. I'm going to give it a title. I'm going to give it a username for my blog. Give it a password. I'm going to give it an email. And I'm going to hit install now. And just like that, I've now installed a website, and I've installed WordPress on top of that website. So it's all ready to run WordPress. All I would have to do is go back to wherever I got my domain name and point it to the right IP address, which is this IP address right here. So I always say keep this documented. I always keep it in a WordPad document so that I've got it handy, and I can go to my DNS name provider like Namecheap or Cloudflare or NameSilo or wherever I bought the name, and I can just tell it this is where this is now located, and that IP address will just work. So there you go. Here is how to actually do the setup to get your own CyberPanel server. And again, this server for $10 a month, this will hold somewhere north of 250 WordPress sites. The lesser versions of it, you can cut it by a third and a third and a third. So if you wanted to do the $5 version, it will hold about 170. If you do the $3.50 version, it'll hold about 80. To actually set this up takes about half an hour to 40 minutes, but I'll cut the film as needed to get it down to about 10 minutes, because you don't need to sit through the parts where the server's just running in the background. So the first thing is you're gonna have to be signed up with Amazon Web Services, and you're gonna go to Amazon Lightsail, and you'll have this screen like this. Of course, I already have one running here, so this won't be here. But let's hit create an instance. The first choice is going to be where is your instance going to be located. I always choose Ohio because it's kind of the middle of the country. Then it's going to be a Linux instance. We're going to go with operating system only, and we're going to choose the largest version or the newest version of Ubuntu. I'm going to scroll down here. You can do this for $3.50, $5, or $10. I'll tell you what I know. The $10 version will hold about 250 to 280 WordPress sites. And then these drop down by a third on each. So if you said 250, a third of that would be about 85. So you get about 80 to 85 for $3.50, about 160, 170 sites on one of these servers for $5 a month. So pick the one that's best for you. I'll tell you the other advantage you get is speed, because the $10 version, you're getting 2 gigabytes of RAM and two CPU cores. So it's going to be a little bit faster. And it's got 3 terabytes of data transfers, which you probably will never use. But if you're going to grow, pick the $10 plan. It's cheap. You're going to give it a name. So for this one, I'm going to call it Fenty Class. And then down here, I'm going to say create. So it's creating. Once it's done creating, this will change from pending to running, and then we'll do the next step. Okay, that happened pretty quickly. Now what I'm going to do is I want to give this its own real IP address. I don't want to use one that can possibly change on me, whereas if I rebooted this right now, it might come up with a different IP address. So I want to get them to allocate an IP address for me, because I'm going to use it for server uses. So I'm going to click on these 3 dots here, and I'm going to say I want to manage. And then down here, I'm going to choose networking, and I'm going to attach a static IP. So it wants me to give it a name. I'm going to name it the same as my instance. And it says it's already used. So I'm going to say Fent Class 1. Okay, so now it has given me an IP address. So I now have this 182.223.197.64. You want to document this, copy that and put it in a notepad somewhere so you've got it handy. I'm going to throw it over on my notepad over here that you can't see. And now what I'm going to do is, just to make sure I'm tied to that, I'm going to go ahead and reboot it once, and just rebooting that instance so that it's going to come up on that IP address. Now once it's rebooted, what I can do is I can come over here to connect, and then I'm going to connect using SSH. So SSH is a secure connection directly from this browser directly to that server. So we're going to do that next. There's my instance up and running. So I'm now running a Ubuntu server. So what I want to do first is I want to make sure that there's no upgrades that are needed for Ubuntu. So I'm going to give it this command, and I'm going to put these commands in the document so that you can just copy and paste them like I'm doing. But this is basically this command is basically telling it to look for updates and upgrades and just do them automatically. Don't stop unless you have to. So it's going to go ahead and run, and it's going to stop a couple of times. It's going to ask me questions, and the questions basically that it asks are going to be about specific little upgrades that it's concerned with. So on all of those, what you do is you hit tab until you light up OK, and then hit enter, and then it'll continue again. So I'm gonna pause this until the first time that happens, because you don't need to sit and watch this. This is going to take us about 10 minutes to get through. So here's one of those instances where it's stopped, and it says, well, what do you want to do on this? And I always just tell it to just accept their choice that they recommended, and then let it go again. So it's going to keep running until the next time that it runs into one of these where it wants to know how you want to handle the upgrade, which will be just in a few moments. So this one's telling me that because of a kernel change, it's going to want to reboot before we go on when we're finished with it. And then this is about which services should be restarted on that reboot. So I'm just going to say, pretty much hit everything that it wants to hit. So at this point, it's done. Everything's ready to go. It does need its reboot. So I can either reboot from this window, or I can reboot from the website. I'll reboot from this window by typing sudo reboot, and it's just like that. It's gone. So now it says you've been disconnected. Do you want to reconnect? So I can wait a couple of seconds, and then I can go ahead and do a reconnect. But it's going to reboot pretty quickly. Ubuntu is a pretty fast operating system. It doesn't take much time for a reboot. So let's see if it'll do it right away. And we're in. So now that we have Ubuntu all upgraded and all ready to go to the latest version, and all of its security updates done, I'm going to paste in the command to install CyberPanel. So again, this command, you don't have to write this down or anything. I'm going to have it right below so you can copy and paste it. So I'm going to hit enter, and it's going to go ahead and do this. Now this is an install where it's going to ask you a few questions up front. So you need to pay attention to it for the beginning. So for instance, install CyberPanel, you have to say that yes, you want to do it. Then it wants to know, do you want to install the enterprise version or the open version, which is the shareware freeware version, which is what we're going to do. Then it wants to know, are you going to do a full installation? And we want to say yes. Are we going to use a remote database? And we're going to say no. And then it wants to know, do you want to put in the live version or do you want to put in an older version? So I'm just going to enter so that it gives me the latest version. And now it wants to know, do you want me to generate a password or do you want to generate one yourself? I'm going to say, I'm going to set it myself by putting an S in here. Then I'm going to give it a password. All right, after you get the password in correctly twice in a row, then it wants to know, are you going to use Memcache? And that's a big yes. Then it wants to know, are you going to use Redis? And we're going to say yes. Then it wants to know, do we want to use Watchdog? And we're going to put yes with a capital S. And it's going to continue to install. This is going to take a while, so I'm going to go ahead and pause the video and let it finish. This particular portion takes about a good 15 minutes. All right, the installation of CyberPanel is done, but there are some ports that need to be opened up in order for it to be secure and allow us entrances into these different ports that we need to run a server. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this window over a little bit, and I'm going to take this window and move it over a little bit because I'm going to go back and forth to do this. So they list the ports right here that you need to have opened up. So over here in Lightsail, we need to open those. So I'm going to go to networking. Scroll down here and we're adding firewall rules, and these are the holes that we're opening up. So the first one is 8090. Create, and then I've got 80, 443, and 443 for UDP or TCP and UDP. Now 80 is already open, so I'm going to go get 443. Then it wants me to get 443 for UDP also. So I'm going to come here, I'm going to say UDP and 443, create. And I'm just going to go down this whole list of these that they have here, and I'm going to go open all of those up so that we're ready to go. So I've got all those firewall rules in, so I'm going to go ahead and reboot the server real quick. And meanwhile, I'm going to go set up a domain and get it ready to bring over here. So I'm going to take this domain. This is just a junk domain that I have. It's called ondemandsalesprospecting.com. And I am going to tell it that it's going to be on that new server. So I'm going to copy the IP address for the server. And you want to keep this in a document so you've always got it handy. I'm going to go to DNS settings for this. And I'm going to edit this. And I'm going to put in the IP address and hit save. So I already have it routed. This is the A record, and then the C name is the www record, and it says that it's basically going to go to the same place. So my domain records are all set for this now, and I should be all good to go from that standpoint. And then I'm going to go back to that server, and I'm going to go actually into the server now. So I'm pretty much done with Lightsail. I don't have to come back in here again. So I'm going to go ahead and close these windows that I have here. And then for this one, I'm going to take this one more time, and I'm going to go paste it into the bar. So I'm going to go paste in the IP address, and I'm going to follow it with 8090. So it's going to be :8090. I'm going to hit enter. Now there's no HTTPS set up on it yet, so it tells me that it's not secure. So I'm going to have to proceed anyway. And we should have a Lightsail server coming up. So here's the Lightsail server. I'm going to go ahead and spread it out a little bit for you. And then I'm going to go in and put my admin name and password in that we gave it while we were doing installation. And let's see if we get in the first try. All right, I've typed it in correctly. So now we have our Lightsail server. Ta-da! So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a website to it. So in order to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on websites. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say create a website. And I'm going to pick a package. It's a default package. I'm going to be the admin. And I'm going to go on demand salesprospecting.com, give it an email address. I'm going to select the latest version of PHP, which is 8.1, and I'm going to tell it that I want it to be an SSL secured site. And I'm going to hit create website. So this is going to go ahead and drop that website in for me. And this will take just a moment. Okay, so just like that, successfully installed. So now what I want to do is I want to install WordPress. So I'm going to go to list websites. And there's only one in here right now, but I'm going to hit manage. Then I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of all of this, and I'm going to choose WordPress plus LS Cache. And I'm going to give it the website title, which is going to be On Demand Sales Prospecting. Whatever it is. My login user, I'm going to give it a username. Give it a password. And it wants an email address, so I'll give it just my personal one. And I'm not going to add anything to the path because I want this to be right there as the whole domain. So just like that, now it's going to go ahead and install WordPress for me. This just takes about a minute to do. Okay, so now WordPress is installed. We have a new website on there and a new WordPress on there. I'm going to do one other thing really quick. Now this is an optional thing, but I always like to do this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here to SSL, and I'm going to say for host name SSL. And what this will do is I'm going to say I want it to be ondemandprospecting.com is also the host for the whole web server. Usually I wouldn't use this name. I'd have some other domain name that I would use. But just for expedience, I'm going to use this first one that we're loading on here. And I'm telling it to issue an SSL certificate for it. So what that's going to do is that's going to replace this HTTPS and the IP address up here on the bar so we don't get that error anymore. So now it says we can access this domain through our on-demand sales prospecting .com name. So I'm going to go ahead and go up here and of course see it's already lost its connection. So I'm going to come up here and put in on demand sales prospecting.com :8090. And now my cyber panel comes up and it comes up without my security error. So I could log right back in again. Now I'm going to take that 8090 off of here really quick. And I'm going to go in and boom, here is my new empty WordPress blog. So from here, I can just simply put in /WP admin. And I can put in my new username and password. And here's my brand new installation of WordPress all set to go. And I can start adding my plugins. I can start making any of the modifications. I can pick which theme I want to use. Everything like that is all set to go. And because it's already got Lightspeed Cache on the server, and you've got the Lightspeed Cache plugin in here, this thing runs like lightning. These Lightspeed cached sites are fantastic. You should speed test these sometime. You'll love how quick they are. Anyway, that's all I wanted to show you today. Enjoy it. Once the installation is finished, you need to open up ports on your server. And it sounds a little technical, and it actually is, but it's a pretty simple interface. You've got this on the screen where it just finished. It's asking if you want to restart the server. Don't do that until after you set these ports up. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to networking. Excuse me. And down here are our firewall rules, and we're going to add rules. So right now, the only two that are open are SSH at 22 and HTTP at 80. So I'm going to add a rule. It's going to be a custom rule. I'm going to call it 8090 and create it. And then I'm going to add a rule, and this one's going to be 443 for TCP and 443 for UDP. So I'm going to go 443 for TCP. Add a rule, 443 for UDP. Now we're going to open 21. Now we're going to open up a range, and this is going to be 40110 through 40210. So I'm going to keep doing these. You don't need to watch me do all of them, but I'm going to go knock the rest of these out real quick. So it's already noticed that port 25 is blocked. This is why I say that you can't use this as an email server. So there is a way that your websites can send emails. But that's not going to be done through this traditional manner of having an SMTP in the back end of your server. So at this point, we can just hit yes so that we get our reboot, and we'll have our server up and running. So it says that we've disconnected, so I'm going to go ahead and close this window. Lightsail, we're pretty much done with it. Here's that whole list of ports really quick if you want to see it all together at one time. There's all the ports all the way down that need to be opened up on this particular server. And now we're going to take the IP address and we're going to go log into the server. So I'm going to take and copy this from here. I'm going to put it up here, and I'm going to put a colon 8090. And if the server's up and running, it should go ahead and boot right now. Now, because we don't have a HTTPS, it's going to say this, and then we're just going to tell it to proceed. And just like that, now we have our new server. You're open and ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and put admin in, and then I'm going to put in the password that I gave it, if I can remember it. Uh-oh. Typo. And now I'm in. So here's our emails, our new web server. And you can see that right off the bat, it's using 12% of the disk usage is for the files that are on board. So, you know, we're just going to be adding to that. So, for instance, about 60 websites, 60 WordPress sites will take about 20%. So you can pretty much figure out how many you could fit onto this hard drive. It's a couple hundred, by the way. So you could fit a couple hundred WordPress sites onto this site. So let me show you real quick how to add a website, and then we'll call it good. So I'm going to go to websites, create a website. I'm going to select a package, which is default. I'm going to put an owner of admin, and then I'm going to put the domain in that we're going to do. So we're going to do alternative finder. Then I'm going to put an email address in. I'm going to pick my PHP level, and I'm going to tell it to create an SSL key for this. And then I hit create a website. So just like that, the website is now being created. It'll take just a couple seconds. Almost done. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to list websites. And of course, this is the only website that's on here. And I'm going to hit manage. And then this gives me access to the file manager and everything else. And if I hadn't put an SSL on it already, it would allow me to do it here, things like that. There's the file manager. But right down here at the bottom, check this out. Let's install WordPress. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to give it a title. I'm going to give it a user. Give it a password. I'm going to give it an email address. I'm going to leave the path empty. And now it's installing WordPress. This automatically installs the latest version of WordPress every time. So it's all set. It also installs light speed caching so that it can operate as fast as possible. So just like that, this is installed. Going back to the dashboard, and we're ready to go. The website's in there and ready to go. All right, that's it.